Welcome back to Horror History, where we explore the darkest mysteries and most chilling crimes in history. Today, we're diving into a case that left an entire town in fear, inspired urban legends, and even led one of the most haunting true crime films of all time. This is the story of the Phantom Killer, the mysterious figure behind the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. Between February and May of 1946, an unknown assailant terrorized the twin cities of Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas. The killer struck in the dead of night, targeting couples and isolated lovers' lanes. His attacks were brutal, his identity remained a mystery, and his presence turned Texarkana into a town paralyzed by fear. His legend would later inspire the 1976 film The Town That Dreaded Sundown, cementing his place in crime lore. Who was the Phantom Killer? Why did he stop? And could he still be out there? Let's unravel the mystery. The first attack occurred on February 22, 1946. Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larray were parked in a secluded area when a man wearing a white mask with holes cut for the eyes appeared. He bludgeoned Jimmy with a pistol and assaulted Mary Jean before letting her escape. Both victims survived, but their descriptions of the attacker were vague. He was tall, wore a sack-like mask, and spoke in a low voice. Less than a month later, the attacks escalated. On March 24th, Richard Griffin and Polly Ann Moore were found shot to death in Griffin's car on another lover's lane. Unlike the first attack, there were no survivors this time. April 14th marked the most gruesome attack yet. Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker, both high school students, were found murdered. Betty Jo's body was discovered miles from where Paul's was left, suggesting she had been taken before being killed. The brutality of these murders shocked the town, and the media frenzy began to build. The final known attack occurred on May 3rd. Virgil Starks, a farmer, was shot in his home while reading the newspaper. His wife, Katie Starks, was shot twice, but managed to escape and get help. This was the first and only attack not targeting a couple in a car. Then, just as subtly as they began, the murders stopped. As news of the attack spread, the town of Texarkana was gripped by terror. People refused to go out at night, locked their doors, and armed themselves. Sales of guns and locks skyrocketed. A curfew was unofficially enforced, and law enforcement ramped up efforts to catch the killer. Authorities, including the Texas Rangers, worked tirelessly to track down the Phantom, but no solid evidence surfaced. Eyewitnesses' descriptions were inconsistent, and forensic technology at the time was limited. One of the most well-known suspects was U.L. S1E20, a local car thief with a criminal record. His wife made statements that seemed to implicate him, but since spousal testimony was inadmissible at the time, no charges for the murders were filed. While S1E20 was imprisoned for other crimes, the Moonlight Murders stopped, but without solid proof, many remain unconvinced that he was the Phantom Killer. Other theories suggest the killer was a drifter, someone who moved on after terrorizing Texarkana, or perhaps even someone who died before they could strike again. Some locals believe he was never caught and lived out his days in secrecy. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain one of the most infamous unsolved cases in American history. The case inspired the 1976 film The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which only heightened the legend of the Phantom Killer. Even today, Texarkana hosts an annual screening of the film at Spring Lake Park, just miles from where the real murders occurred. With no definitive answers, the Phantom Killer remains an enigma. Was he a lone madman? A seasoned criminal who knew how to cover his tracks? Or something even more sinister? The story of the Phantom Killer is one of fear, mystery, and unanswered questions. Even decades later, the town of Texarkana has never forgotten the terror that once lurked in the shadows. His legend continues, proving that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we never catch. What do you think? Was U.L. Sweeney the killer, or did the Phantom vanish into the night, never to be found? Let me know your theories in the comments, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share the podcast. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and as always, stay safe. Peace.